y'all for joining us at Dark Oak Press. It's all about writing, and today we're talking about It's All About Writing Romance. We have Elaine Meece and Annette Miller joining us. Elaine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a local Memphis person and married and got children. I started publishing in 2012. I'd been a member of Romance Writers of America for probably 15 years at the time, or 20, somewhere in there, and River City Romance Writers. And I chose to self-publish. So I am an indie author. I know what I'm doing. I have a staff. I have editors. I have art people, website people. And so I really enjoy doing that. It gives me more of a first-hand approach to my book and wanting to get it right. I write romantic suspense. I have a series out, Turbulence, Grounded, and I'm writing Stalled Down. I also have a comedy series out, Love Shack, Sugar Shack, and then Let's Shack Up will come out this month. And then on top of that, I have a book I've written with my husband. It's a World War II book, In the Shadow of the Sun, based on the true story of the Jenkins sisters from Tennessee in World War II. And so mainly I have about 10 suspense titles and just this one comedy and then this. So that pretty well wraps me up in a nutshell.
All right, Annette.
I'm Annette Miller. I write paranormal romance, but it's not vampires or anything. It's all superhero romance because I love superheroes. I've only lived in Memphis since 2012, and I chose where I live because of the River City Romance Writers Group. I am a member of RWA. I have a story in the Elmwood anthology Through Malice. My novella, www.cupid through Wild Rose Press, placed 4th in the International Digital Awards last year in the short paranormal category. My husband's an Air Force veteran, and really that about wraps me up. I'm pretty basic.
And I have stories in the Malice anthologies too, so I forgot to say that.
I'm president of Malice in Memphis, and this is our 3rd anthology. We'll have a 4th coming out sometime later this year. And I also write paranormal, romantic suspense, and mystery as well. Let's talk about what romance is and how it's changed over the years. What would you say?
Romance is a relationship between two people who meet. And so many people misunderstand romance. I know when I retired from teaching, somebody made a wisecrack about those X-rated books and all these people having affairs. And I said, you don't understand romance. Romance are two people who are available, who meet and fall in love. And it's their story and the progression of that romance. It's not necessarily trash. It's not necessarily filthy. It's not about people cheating on their wives. And so many people have a misrepresentation of what romance really is.
Yeah, it's kind of a negative rap, and it's not really what we think it is.
A lot of the way the perceptions have changed these days is just look at the romance covers. Gone are the terrified women in the big flouncy dresses. Now you see the heroines standing on the cover with the hero, toting the same size gun if it's a romantic suspense, but they are no longer just fainting into the arms. The women are just as strong as the heroes, and I think that's done a lot to bring romance more into people who wouldn't read romance, but they've seen how it's changed because the heroines aren't these ridiculous women anymore. They're just as strong as the men, and a lot of times, like in my books, in my books, the heroines are rarely rescuing the heroes. It's the heroes who need the rescuing and not the heroines. Because I think we need to show a stronger female presence these days in romance to get it out of that stereotype.
I still have heroes that rescue the hero that I know, like in this book, Love in the Shadows. She's an FBI agent, and I have the hero racing off to save her, and I thought, wait a minute, she's a kick-ass FBI agent. She doesn't need him. You know, so I had to go back and do some rewriting, and so I have her taking care of herself. But
well, in Dark Side of the Mirror, Elaine's other book, Dark Side of the Mirror, which I read, is very good. I recommend picking it up. Her heroine and her hero end up fighting together to beat the bad guys. Kristi's book does the same thing, also very good, but then again, she had me when she said Norse. So I love the Norse mythology, so she had me already. Kristi's book does the same thing. Her heroines fight beside the heroes. It's not just the heroes going in and holding their hands and protecting them anymore.
No, more and more the women are projected as strong and not in need of rescuing.
Yeah, you need to avoid what is known as the TSTL, which is too stupid to live.
Yeah.
If there's a noise in the basement, don't go down in your nightdress and your bedroom slippers. You grab a baseball bat, you put on your combat boots, you go in the basement, you beat the crap out of whoever's down there.
That's right. Or you
Avoid
call the
the-
police and leave the house.
Yeah. Just avoid the too stupid to live. Because
in most
really,
of your horror movies, and you're going, no, no.
And that'll turn so many people off from a book is having the heroine being really, really stupid. Doing really dumb things. And so you have to be sort of careful about that. And especially, it's really a fine line, especially if it's a comedy and you want her to do some silly things. But, you just have to look and think, okay, now wait a minute. How is she coming across? I mean, what IQ do these readers think she has? 65, 70, if she's doing really dumb things all the time. So you sort of have to balance it out. You can give them cute, quirky personalities, but at the same time, show that they're smart.
Yeah.
And
Make them flawed. They
Yeah,
don't have. They shouldn't be perfect. That's the whole point.
but likable. Very likable. Because nobody wants to read about a person they don't like. And that's...
And people identify more with characters that are flawed, and the more flaws you can put in them, the better. Of course, don't make them stupid and ridiculous. Like, if the hero knows that his best friend is a scumbag, don't have him keep going through the whole book. Well, I trust him. Don't trust him. Don't let your hero be that kind of a person. Give him the suspicions. He wants to trust him, but he can't. But that's kind of a character flaw right there. Trust is a big character flaw. Wouldn't you guys agree? Because they want to trust, but they can't, or they had their trust destroyed. So rebuilding that's a great flaw that you can work into any character. That would be really, really awesome.
This is what you don't want to happen when you write a book. You don't want them falling asleep in the middle of reading. So one of the ways to do that, when you're writing a book, you've got to think about pacing. Pacing is very important. And one of the things that we talk about is no backstory. Now, backstory, and it used to be really bad in historicals because they'd want to tell about this duke and this duchess and this heir to this, and it would just go on. So if you have a little bit of backstory and you want to tell some information about your characters, filter it in little bitty bits. Don't just try to put a big section and have a paragraph this long of backstories. And actually, you should keep your paragraphs short. You don't really want these big long paragraphs anymore. The second thing is void information dumps, and that's very close to backstory. And it might be that you're given information about the hospital they work at. Who cares? It's a hospital. We've all been in a hospital or visited a hospital. Give them some brief settings and then move on. But don't have big sections of information or that their cousin knew the president. And believe it or not, I see this in major books. The host was Stephanie Myers, who wrote the Twilight series, had tons of info dumps and backstory. So try to avoid this if you want a good pacing set. Scenes must be relevant, and sometimes this gets to be so hard. You've written that perfect little scene, and it's so cute, it's so funny, and guess what? It doesn't move the romance, and it doesn't move the plot. And if it doesn't help your story, you got to cut it. Or you've got to find a way to make it relevant. Now, I had a scene with a little dry cleaner man, little Chinese dry cleaner man, and my heroine, where he's lost the hero's pants that she spilled coffee on. And I loved it. And it came to a point where I thought, I got to cut it. It's not relevant. But I liked the scene so much, I went back and worked it into the story where they end up hiding in the cleaners. I worked that dry cleaning, so I would make those scenes relevant and a reason to have them. No unfamiliar words. If you use a big word, and I love Sandra Brown, but I used to have to sit with a dictionary beside me. I couldn't understand all the words, and what it does is it takes them out of the story. If you're going to use a word, then let them know what that word means with context clues. If I use the word Dolores, then I'll turn around and use she was really sad. I try to give some meaning if I'm using some big word, because sometimes my kids tell me, Mom, you're writing like a fourth grader. You need to use something a little bit bigger. But no, I want my readers to be able to get on that book and read the story. I'm not trying to impress you with big words. Setting. And I used to teach school, but anyway, setting. Setting these days, this is another one, especially in the historicals, where, if you read Cross Creek by Marjorie Rollins, and she's one of my favorite authors. Now I can't get through her books, I can only watch the movies. But she has literally 4 pages of setting describing Cross Creek at the very start of the book. Nowadays, people would throw that down. She would never get a book published. You need to work your setting in just like you do your backstory. So instead of, you can stop and, sometimes I stop and describe a little bit. But then I use the setting as like, she walked through the door and she sat in the Victorian chair. I don't say there was a Victorian chair by the door. Have that character interacting with that setting. So they're not just, where you're not having to stop and put blocks of stuff. Give a little description. Sometimes, and if you're writing paranormal, the world stuff where you're having to create a world, sometimes you do have to use more paragraphs and more structure to develop that world. It's not like the hospital thing where we've all visited a hospital probably at one time and we're going to sort of know what that's like. So if you're writing about a planet, then you're going to have to turn around and build that world. So that's a little bit different. Avoid brick walls. I have readers that read my books and they're not trained in romance or writing, and what I tell them is when you come to something you have to read twice to understand it. If your critique partners tell you this has got a problem, that's a brick wall, take it out. You don't want your reader to have to stop and read anything twice to get through it and to understand it, because it's going to stop that flow. The other thing is move excess words. Just, help me, what's some more?
That, seemed, finally, really,
Yeah.
was to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord, that's mine. Was to be, oh, Lord.
I was trying to think of I just took, young. Young. Everything in the World War II book was a young soldier, a young nurse, and I thought, what the hell, is there a word besides young I could use? So, be careful with that kind of stuff, excess word. No endless dialogue. We're going to talk more about dialogue, so I won't get into that. Shorten paragraphs help. Show, don't tell, and that's what Annette was starting on, where you want to try to avoid passive, like where you're using was and were. You want to make it more active, and we're going to talk about that more, right? So I'm not going to harbor on that. Make POV clear. That's the point of view. Who's the character that you're seeing the story through? You want to make it clear. And usually, you stay in that character's point of view. I really can't last a whole chapter. My chapters are long. Usually I have the hero's point of view, and then I'll switch, and I do a scene break, and then I do the heroine's. Nora Robert head hops. That's where you're just jumping. When I first started writing, even the dog had a point of view. The cat had a point. Everybody had a point of view, and it was like boing, boing, boing. So try to sort of stick with that one character and really help your reader get more into them. And you always pick the character that has the, let's see, what is that now, where they have the most to lose, or how do you pick which character to be in POV?
I really don't. I write from multiple viewpoints. And she can tell you that she's read some of my books.
Don't listen to Annette.
Don't listen to me.
I'm teasing.
Listen to
I'm
me.
teasing. Okay, So that is sort of show and don't tell, make POV clear. Now DPOV is something I like to do, and it's almost where my narration is almost coming like the character's thinking it. It's not a narrator, it's almost like I'm still doing the things the character does, and you're feeling their stomach growl or their heart beating. That's sort of taking POV a little bit deeper. Avoid long section of introspection or narration. There we go back to the old writers, Marjorie Rawlings and all the older ones. My grandkids chose to tell me that William Shakespeare was great yesterday, and I'm not. Anyway, narration, you want a balance. You don't want like big sections of narration, which I have had to do in the World War II book. And it's not, it's fiction, but it's more of a true thing. But you want to try to balance it. You want some dialogue, you want some narration, you want their inner thoughts a little bit. And you want this nice balance.
I had a question.
Yes.
Write active, don't write past tense.
Yes.
What if you're writing about, like if you're doing a period piece and it's just so long ago?
Okay, you're still going to use active.
Okay.
And the way you're going to do that, and we're going to cover that, but like instead of saying,
Instead of saying he walked into the room and was angry, you say he walked in, he stomped into the room and slammed the door and threw his keys. That's active.
That's
he walked into the room and he was angry. That's passive.
Yeah, you want to try to avoid the was, and usually to fix it, you just need to flip it around.
Okay, so avoid the what?
Yeah.
Avoid the was and were. Now that doesn't mean that you need to cut them all out.
Because that's impossible.
That's
You
impossible.
can leave them here and
And
there.
it's your main verb. It's not going to be in the object later if you have a was or were that you have to cut that out too. And I've seen people, they hear one thing and then they take it to an extreme. It's like, oh, I can't do that. I went, yeah, you can. You've got to. Use anything. The deal is just don't overdo a bad rule. Every now and then you might have to do it. Sentences should never be over 28 words. When I'm judging contests or working with new people into writing, usually they want these big, long sentences, and she can tell you I'm a staccato writer.
I describe her as a staccato writer. Her sentences are very short.
Well,
very,
and in the
But she's
World War
also
II
writing
book,
suspense. And
Yes.
suspense, short, choppy sentences are better for suspense.
right?
And I don't write like that. I write the long sentences, and she picked on me about that.
Yeah, but
because that fits the genre that I write in.
And you have a greater chance of doing run-on sentences if you make them too long. Though in the World War II book, my readers were very impressed that I actually had very long sentences. No paper doll characters, make them real. Be careful. We talked about characterization just a minute ago. You want to give them real problems. You don't want to make them too over the top. And here's a little thing. If you, in the back of your book, all of a sudden they're doing karate and they're doing all this stuff, you can't just throw them a bag of tools when they're in trouble. You need to go ahead and incorporate that early on. We need to know, hey, I took karate when I was 12 years old, or you've got to have somewhere they got those tools. They can't just fall from heaven. Okay, let's move on because I don't want this to take too long. And all right, plan your GMC. Most important thing, especially in a romance: goal, motivation, and conflict. Can I mention so-and-so's book?
Yes.
Go ahead. Deb Dixon has the book. GMC, goal, motivation, and conflict. I'm dyslexic, so I always turn the letters around. Your character has to have goals, and they need to be real goals. I just shudder when I see a book where the heroine's goal is to get married, or I want to fall in love. And, it's like, seriously, she needs to have some other goals. I want to open a florist shop. I want to do this. She needs to have some things. The hero needs goals. Now, sometimes those goals can change during the course of the story, but they need goals. What motivates your character? Why is your character doing this? They need to have really good reasons. And I was up all night, so I'm going to depend on them for examples and stuff, with a big giant poodle barking. And my kids moved in with me for a little bit. What motivates your characters? Now here's the most important. Internal and external conflict, and I'm going to try to do this very quickly. External conflicts are like the bad guys shooting at them, things happening. Internal, when you have a hero and heroine, that's that thing that's going to keep them apart. In my book, Eye of the Abductor, the heroine is an ex-felon. The hero he's a career cop, and he comes from a family of career cops. He's not going to want to marry. His family's not going to want somebody like that. So you want, and the one she said, Dark Side of the Mirror, the hero's the U.S. Marshal. He's been hunting Selena Mendez. Guess what? The heroine's her identical twin sister, separated at birth. She looks just like the woman he's hated for years and killed his best friend and shot him. Yeah, it's a little bit of internal conflict. How do you overcome that? She can't change her face. So that's internal conflict. What's keeping them apart? And if it's not strong enough, anytime I've gotten halfway through a book and couldn't finish it, it's because I did not develop that internal conflict to make it strong enough to last through the entire book. Can you get more internal conflict and change some of these things? Yes, but it's hard to. You need something that's going to be really strong. It can't just be because he likes grape lollipops and she likes orange ones, that kind of stuff. It's got to be something deep. All right, let's move on because I don't want to take up all the opening hooks. Your book, and if you have an prologue. See, I told you I'm dyslexic. Prologue, you need a hook at the beginning of your prologue, and then you go to chapter 1, you need a beginning hook. A statement hook, and I used to have a thing with examples. You need something that's going to entice the reader to think. I know there's got to be an example here. Let me pick this one. Okay. All right. Deputy U.S. Marshal Braden Wolf wanted to be the first, but I don't tell you the first at what. You know, it's you've got to have those opening hooks. And where am I? How did I get here? So you need some kind of line. It can be a question. It can be, but you need something that's going to entice your reader to want to keep reading. And I think I have, let's see. Okay, build an emotional bond between your hero and heroine with the reader. Patricia Potter is a local author and belongs to Malice with us. She is really good at this. What you do, especially if you have a hero or a heroine that's got some kind of flaw that's going to make people not like them, you've got to find a way for them to connect with me. In my, I didn't bring it, but in my book, Undercurrents, I have Caleb McGregor getting out of prison. Of course, he's been falsely accused, or he wouldn't be my hero. But he's getting out, and he's riding with his brother, and you know, his brother ends up getting out. He realizes his brother doesn't want any part of him. He's ashamed. Stop, I'm going to get out here. And he ends up walking in the rain for all these miles because his pride. One thing prison didn't take from him was his pride. So you've got to find that thing that's going to just, oh, your reader's just, their heart's just going to melt for this person. Or they're going to like him. Pat Potter uses a thing where the guy pets a dog. He's a really badass, excuse my language. He's really bad, and all of a sudden he pets this dog or he gets it out of the street. You know, you've got to do some of these redeeming qualities, and you've got to do it. You've got to have your hero and heroine likable. Okay, let me see here. Let me go on very quickly. And into chapter hooks. One of the ones that's good to use is always promise of sex, threat of death, ending question, shock factor, ending with a prediction. Death was sure to come. You know, you don't want to just end with a happy ending. And when I first started writing, I used to try to close every chapter out nicely. So it's like, it's almost like its own little ending. And somebody says, oh no, they'll put the book down and go to sleep. You want that same kind of brain thought. In my World War II book, I know that they're driving up to a post, and I know they're driving up there, and I know the soldiers aren't bad at the post, but the reader doesn't, do they? They don't know who they could be the traitors. So I go ahead and have my little nurse go, oh, they're soldiers. What if they're the fifth columnist? This could be a trap we're driving into. I only did that for a hook, you know? And so what is the reader going to do? They're going to go on to the next section, aren't they? Because they're going to want to see if my nurses are being set up in a trap. Sometimes you have to get a little tricky. You know, you can do little tricks and put little things and weave little things in there to keep your people reading. Ending with a prediction, you know. So these are like some of the, you've got to have, every chapter needs to end. And some people even end each scene on a hook. Now, I get a little, that's almost a little much sometimes for me, is to have every scene end on some kind of hook. I mean, occasionally it just happens. But I think just the main places, opening chapter hooks, end of chapter hooks, and let's see if we go on. And Kristi, I'm not going to get into the on this unless you want me to. Why should they read your book? When you pick up a romance book, guess what? The hero and heroine's going to get together at the end. They're going to get together, aren't they? I mean, that's pretty much a given. It's going to pretty well have a happy ending unless you're Nicholas Sparks. Okay, you need a reason, and that's one reason I love writing suspense, is because not only do I have that romance story going and I don't have a big sagging middle, a great beginning, great end, boing. The romance and the suspense go really well to keep your book exciting and the pacing fast. So you've got to ask yourself, what is the reader reading for? And you've got to plant little things. Debbie May Comer had a series, and in that series there was a box, probably about like the one back there by Ellen. Nobody knew what was in the box, and back then they didn't have internet. I went to every used bookstore in Memphis trying to find all the books in that series because it was very outdated, just to see what was in the box. You've got to find things that are going to entice your readers. What are they reading for? You know, they've got to be reading for more than just the romance. They've got to be reading for more. And you can string all kinds of little magic along the way. It turned out there was nothing in the box really of importance. That's cheating. If you set your reader up and you set them up for something like that box, you better have something good in it. Because that really hurt me with her. And I love her. She's a great person. But I was very disappointed that there wasn't sex at the end of Matter of Marriage. But anyway, you know, I didn't care if they went behind bedroom doors and closed them. I just wanted some kind of, I didn't want them to all of a sudden be at the drive-in and they have kids 5 years later. Okay, let's see. Am I skipping something here? I can't see this. End of chapter hooks. Let's see what this says very quickly. Okay, we did that. Why should you read? You've got to give them something. Enhancing the plot. And I'm not going to really, I'm going to just a little touch on this. I always do more than one plot, but if you are just starting out writing, you need to first learn how to develop that one stable plot before you try any of this. So I'm just going to tell you just a little. I do subplots, parallel plots. In Dark Side of the Mirror, I think it has 5 things going at one time. And they all come together like this very beautifully. They didn't when I was writing it. I wanted to throw it away. So you want to have little secrets. What we'll just look at, I'm not going to get into all the plots because they have things they want to talk about. We want to get in deeper on some of the POV stuff. But withholding information. Have some information that nobody knows that you're going to sort of string them along on. Little secrets. In Undercurrents, the one about the prisoner, I had the little boy coming to his mother and going, Mom, if you hear a secret, should you tell it? And she gives him a big lecture about, no, you shouldn't tell it. And then all of a sudden she realizes that it's about maybe her and about something about her aunt and family secrets, and all of a sudden she's trying to get him to tell. No, Mom, you told me not to tell. So I string this secret through this entire book. It'll come up every now and then. Little things, and it doesn't have to come up often. It can just be something that pops up every now and then through the book. You would be surprised how much of that keeps a reader turning those pages. And so at the end, of course, the mother does find out what it is that I deliver. It's something good. You know, it's something really good about the end she finds out. Those little secrets are good, and I think all I have is the plot stuff, and we're not going to get into that. Because how many of you have started writing a book? Okay. How many of you have written more than one? Are you all in your, okay? So, I don't know. You want me to stop here and y'all go ahead and talk, and if they want me to finish the plot stuff after we talk, I could if we have time.
Let's do that.
Because the ones that are already writing and experimenting, you're probably maybe ready to do some secondary stories or to do withheld information, and so we're going to go ahead and talk, and if we have time, then I'll just come back and talk about the plots. Any questions before I go back over there? Okay. I hope that was helpful. I know I talked really fast.
And if you're going to write paranormal romance, you are, even if it's on Earth and like just goes to whatever, you have rules for your world. You have to follow your own rules. The readers will know if you break your rules. Like if all of a sudden somebody's got magic and they're doing all this stuff and then they're suddenly using a laser gun or something, you have broken your own rules because they are expecting this character to act in a certain way. So you've just broken the rule of your world. Follow your own rules. And having said that, Somerset Maugham said there actually are no rules in writing. He said there's 3 hard and fast rules for writing. Unfortunately, no one knows what they are. And that is so true.
You know, I really tend to try to stay within what publishers want. Being self-published, if the big publishing houses don't want you to do a certain thing, then I try to avoid it a little bit. Though I have a friend that's made a fortune by writing stuff that the big publishing 5 won't touch. And she's ended up making a killing doing it. So, you know, sometimes if you break a rule, you might be doing well. She started Civil War books, and they had been taboo for so long. And there was a market for it that wasn't being touched, and she started self-publishing, and she is like, she's really doing well. I'm jealous. I'm so jealous.
So if you're going to write romance, a good thing to do is to read romance and be familiar with what you're writing.
Within the genre you want to write.
That's true.
Oh, and while you're speaking of that, let me just, and some people jump all over the board. I have friends that will write a suspense one week, and the next week they're writing historical, and the next week they're doing a paranormal. But I tell you what, if you're really wanting to write, and this is why you need to be careful about what you choose, what genre you choose to write. I started with suspense. I love suspense. I'm always very suspicious of everybody. And like the people at my house right now. But anyway, without me there's no telling what they're looking at. But if you write a genre, you want to stick with it and build a readership in that. I have a very good readership with my romantic suspense. My comedy came out. I thought Elaine's Amazing Readers were just going to jump on that comedy. No, it's done so poorly. It's really good, and the ones that have read it love it. But I'm going to have to go back, and guess what? I've got to build another fan base based on comedy now. So I've really been working at promoting my comedy and trying to keep the suspenses going too. So be careful. It's really hard to develop that faithful readership because I tell you what, suspense mystery people are suspense mystery people.
Yeah,
And
they do
comedy
get upset
people,
when
you know,
change.
yeah, so you've got to be really careful. So when she said think about what you want to write, think carefully what you enjoy writing. The suspenses to me are easy. I'm sorry, they're so much easier than just a plain contemporary because I don't have to worry about sagging middles.
That's why I write paranormal. I love the fantasy world. My heroes are all superheroes. My heroes and my heroines are all superheroes. In my first book, my hero is a human gargoyle hybrid. He's human during the day, and he's a gargoyle at night. And he's a protector of the fairy realm. Why? Because I love fairy tales. So that's why I chose to write in paranormal. Even my sweet romance in the Candy Heart series that won in the International Digital Awards, it's a sweet romance, and it's still a paranormal because it takes place in the fantasy world, but then there's a portal that they go to Earth and they help people fall in love at www.Cupid. It's a corporation, and Cupid runs it.
We're not saying don't write in another genre if you want to, but that's why a lot of authors choose a pen name if they're going to write in a different genre.
Okay, so I have a question about that because I do write in various different genres. I have children's books, I have adult books, I have adult books. Pen names, how do you get those so that they're, just yours, I guess I want to say, so that people recognize that as being yours when you get to the publishing point of this,
That's a good question.
Okay, you pick a name. Pick a name you like. Now, I wouldn't pick my first name, Ida, or, some name that, says Reeks Country. But anyway.
With your Shaq series, you should pick
Yeah,
Ida.
I shouldn't, Ida.
Yeah.
Pick a name, then Google that name and see what comes up. Go to Amazon, Google that name and see how many other authors. Now, sometimes people do it. If there's if I change my name to Heather Graham and spell it slightly different, it comes up every time Heather Graham's coming up. Yeah, you might want to do it, but I wouldn't. I would pick a name that no one's using, and then you want to go and buy and now am I wrong? Back there, Alan, if I do say something wrong, just interrupt me. Then I would go and buy the domain name. Get your internet stuff, information first, and wrap that up.
And how do you do that?
I don't know. I have a website.
Your website, whoever you're going to use, you're on your website, you're going to ask for the domain from your website provider.
I have a website guy that worries about that, but
Yeah, I have my own web designer too. I haven't done anything with that. She did
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
for me.
you would want to wrap that name up because they sell out fast. And finding a name that somebody doesn't have. Believe it or not, there is another author on Amazon named Elaine Meece, and she is a terrible writer. She has one book, and she has literally had the nerve to send me a thank you message saying thank you for all the sales. And it's a horrible book. People that I know have bought it have just reeked, going, oh my goodness, I thought it was you.
Another tip is, you said you were writing both children's, young adult, and adult. Many writers that are going to use pen names, you use one name for children's and young adult books, and if you have an adult series, use a different name. That helps set your readers up for expectation. They don't pick up my Pat Sawtelle book, which is written for adults, and then it's and maybe they saw a children's book of it, and they get the wrong book for the wrong audience. That's how you help your readers separate it. It's never a bad thing also to list them in the front of your books, and list that you write under different names, and a little blurb about what type of series it is, children's series, whatever. You'll find that a lot of the cozy mystery authors do that because they'll write 3 or 4 different series for different audiences, and they'll list them in the front of the books, and they'll talk about what they're listed in.
Unless you're writing inspirational and then doing the erotica.
Yeah, they don't even mention the other.
You
Yeah.
don't want your inspirational.
Don't cross genre those. Don't review, you don't want to cross genre.
Yeah, you have to sort of watch some of that stuff, but. Yeah, if you ever get to any of this, you can do this or something.
But you're right, you want to wrap up those websites, you want to wrap up those names, you want to know, and you need to set your persona. You need to decide what is your personality for that book and what's going to be behind it. So when you start to try to sell that personality, what's your experience and your point of view from writing the children's book versus the adult book? There's a different part of you that you need to sell your expertise and your reason and why you're good at writing those books.
One of the reasons, though, I stayed with my name, Elaine Meece, on the comedy and the suspense, I tried to make sure the covers look comic. Like you can tell this is a comedy, it's not my suspense. But the cost, I couldn't afford another website. And if you're going to separate yourself into 2 or 3 different people, then you're going to need a website, and you're going to need all the different information. So it really gets to be very costly. Like on my website, you can look at my comedies, you can look at my suspense. And I've had to do that for now. And I went ahead and went with Elaine Meece instead of, because I've got such a readership. Well, it didn't, like I said, it didn't really carry over like I planned.
So what is, in your experience, what is the cost of a website to start?
I pay, well, the design can run you anywhere between 500 and thousands, depending what kind of website. But let me tell you something. You can call a university, call their tech department, and they will put a posting out for a top grad student who will design you a website and teach you how to use it. You can do that. Now, I have a web guy that's cost me an arm and a leg, and he's not worth it. But I love him to death, but, we have some problems. So you can do that, that's one option. Then there's a lot of self-building websites that you can build yourself, and I'm not tech savvy enough to do it. I've tried and then I get hung up.
You can get free ones to start out. When you're first starting, just go to someplace like WordPress or what's the other one?
I use
Weebly,
Wix and I built it
Wix.
myself.
You can get a free
I use
website, build it
Wix.
yourself. It's not
See,
expensive.
now, I had trouble with Wix. I got so far, and when it came to downloading some of the books and stuff, I couldn't get it to work right. But
But starting out, that's where you
Yeah.
start. And then when you have some
Right.
books and you have some money and you've got your budget, then you go forward to get have somebody come help you out.
but basically what I pay my guy is $250. He charges usually $350, but he says he likes me, so he charges me $250 a year. And then I pay iPower $250 a year, and then there's some little bitty fees. I don't understand what they are. They just come out of my credit card bill, and I just go, okay. And
So that's a yearly charge when you're.
it's a yearly charge, and it's always best to set it where it just renews itself, because I don't know if you're like me, but I forget to do that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up for now. Thank you for joining us.